Hello and welcome to another coloring video. It's been about 5 to 6 months since the last time I released one of these. And, I've been busy, I've been getting acclimated to my new job. I've been, working on that, getting all that stuff done. And, I haven't had time to really just sit down and, work on these projects. And, they're kind of been building up. What I'm doing right now is, I really liked the way how one of the eyes looked, and, the other one just wasn't, I couldn't get it to, match, and I was like, wait, I'm doing it electronically, I could just, select, copy over, and just color it that way, and that was kind of my thought process there. You're allowed to make things easier on yourself. But what I'm currently doing in this video is I'm coloring a new icon for my channel. And I will be releasing another video when I make it in a couple of weeks where I will be updating the theme of the top banner of my channel as well. So whereas the icon will now have my mascot that I kind of created myself, this kind of wolf-dragon hybrid, the theme will then have me doing something. I haven't decided exactly what I want the theme to do. I'm thinking some kind, cause it's hard to decide what I want to accentuate in the theme, because the theme of anything is to show the parts of you that you want people to get right off the bat. And since my channel and just me, I'm so varied and inconsistent, it seems, it's very hard to figure out what exactly I'm trying to say with a theme. But that is my battle to, go into and figure out. This is just, standard video, coloring, showing my process, and, updating, just, something that feels like it's been the same for a long time. In, all actuality, it hasn't been all that long that I've had this, my particular, profile image and this whole, aesthetic. It's only been, at most a year, but it's always good to change. It's update and keep going forward. When I was designing this character, because I had only ever drawn my mascot, the wolf with the dragon wings, and first off, I created the mascot because I really enjoy, my two favorite animals are the wolf and dragons. That sounds really, basic stuff. It's well, everyone likes wolves. Everyone likes dragons. That's not unique to you. But it's those are just the two animals I've always really enjoyed. And I decided for my channel, or my mascot rather, I wanted to combine the two of those together. But for this image, I had only drawn my character once, and I had especially not, it was the one I, in the beginning of the video that popped up real quick as I was getting the colors for this one. And, I had never, I hadn't drawn it from any other angle, so I kind of had to, in a way, reimagine what my character looked like, and I was trying to capture, a kind of more of a minimalistic style, where it's I don't know, I had this image in my head that I was trying to replicate, and in the end result, I think it worked out fairly well as to what I was going for, but it wasn't making it any easier. I know I had missed a line back there, and I eventually realized that and go back because like the camera like freaked out or something. Not the camera, like the canvas. Because again, I do color entirely with a trackpad, and you know, while the trackpad while the trackpad is responsive, it's not designed for big coloring projects or drawing. And yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, you know, I've tried doing the same project with a mouse, and I just found it much easier to use the trackpad. But hence why the lines always look kind of blurry, and it always has that really old, like, you know, rustic feel, like the like your, I don't know, like your little brother just like runs up to you and is like, "Look what I made," and you're just like, "Wow, that's, you know, pretty good for an 8-year-old." And he's like, "I'm 22." Yeah, that's just me being an artist, and I guess unhappy with my own skill. Like, it's that constant. I wish I was, you know, a better artist. And I feel like even when you are a really good artist, you never feel like your art is good enough. And I guess it just constantly keeps you moving forward. Like I said before, you gotta keep moving forward. However, it does make it hard to appreciate all the hard work you've put into things, where after a couple of weeks, you just look back at it and you're like, "Man, what was I thinking?" And the reason, so back to the eyes, I was saying how earlier I had copied that eye, the eye I'm currently coloring, and I had moved it over to the other one, like basically just flipped it and brought it over. But another reason I wasn't too worried about like just copying the same eye again is because I knew that in the coloring process they were going to end up looking slightly different anyway, because just, you know, as you saw, I just added a gray line and a part of the white because it didn't look right from this angle. And that's just part of you know, drawing, for me anyway, as I go. It's so that the eyes look similar enough, but it also, like, you know, they're also unique. And obviously, you know, in nature it would be completely symmetrical, but you know, we work with what we got. I often go back over the same lines over and over again because, like I said, it's really hard to make a straight line with a trackpad, because at the end of your like natural like movement of your fingers, you end up like kind of making a curve in some way. Yep, see there, I went back and fixed that line I missed. But you end up like making a curve with your fingers in some direction, either like backwards or forwards or like to the left or the right. And it's like it can just, when you're, you know, trying to make a line, that slight curve now is making the whole line go like completely off track, and you end up like, you know, way out of where you're trying to be. And if you're wondering what those little messages popping up in the corner are, that's just I had Facebook open at the time when I was coloring this, and that's just my friend sending me a bunch of like random images he had found on like Reddit or something. And yeah, I was going to like either tell him, "Hey, I'm like, you know, I'm doing something right now," but I was just like, nah. I was kind of like in one of those zones where you're like, I'm just working. Like, I barely even saw it like coming on screen when it did. I maybe saw it like a couple of times, but like I wasn't sitting there like thinking every single time it came up like, here he goes again, messaging me. No, it was more like Tim sent me a message. And then after I was done recording this portion, because I had broken this coloring into 3 portions, I had gone on and I had realized he had sent me like a bunch of different messages, and I'm just like, oh, well, this is just like exploding all over the place. What you just saw there with that line that I was trying to draw, a lot of times what happens is sometimes, like, I have the opposite problem of what I was just describing, where it's like instead of getting that curve at the end of the line, sometimes you just, you get too straight of a line, and it's just like you're in an area where it's like you want a bit of a curve, you want to have, something there, and then you end up with like a completely flat line, and you're just like, this, really? I don't want a flat line here, or I don't want a straight down line here. I want like a bit of a curve there. That's, again, it's just, it's a learning process. I've definitely gotten much better at coloring, even like despite being a little limited in like my way of doing it. But it is still like, very time consuming. It takes a lot of time, as most things that I end up doing do. I've noticed that a lot of my projects like this, and a couple of the, like my animation stuff, and a couple of the other projects I've worked on, end up being, they take a long time, and because I don't know what I'm doing fully, they end up just not coming out very well. So it's like, it doesn't look like I've spent a couple of years working on this animation, but I have. It's the same kind of thing with this, where it's like, I spent, I think, a total of, over the course of 3 days, I spent maybe 4 or 5 hours coloring this image. And just based, like, if you just looked at the final product, it might not necessarily look like I spent a long time on it. It might look like something that you could just, like, whip up in, like, 15 to 30 minutes in, like, Microsoft Paint or something. But it's like, no, I really did spend, very long time coloring this image. And that's not like feel bad for me, I have it so hard. No, it's just, that's the reality I live in, where it's just, I spend so much time trying to make things the way I want them to be, and because of, of my, yeah, I forgot another line. I'll go back and fix that, probably, I think so. Yeah, there we go. I realized I had skipped it. Nope, I just went right by it again. Yep, okay. Yeah, apparently I'm not going back to fix that. I've gone into shading, which is something I didn't do on my other coloring video. But yeah, so shading, the way I have always done shading is I pick a direction that the sun is, or like the light source is coming from. And that's kind of like what I do. I'm like, okay, so these things are overlapping here. Like, as you can see, I'm working on the arm and like the wing. I was like, well, the shoulder is obviously covering that portion of the wing. And, the wing is curved, so, and like, yeah. And I play around here a bit with shadows, because it's like, I always end up either doing too much shadows or not enough. And, yeah. But anyway, as I was saying, you have to, you have to pick a direction of, like, where the light is coming from, because otherwise you end up with, contradicting thoughts, where it's like, on one side of the face you have really, like, hard contours, and on the, like, going in one direction, and then maybe on the other side of the face you have light going in the opposite direction, and it's like, well, no, because then if the light was shining in both those patterns, it would change, like, it wouldn't change that way. Like, you wouldn't, like, you can't have both all these shadows branching out from the same point and all this light branching out from, like, different points. You have to kind of, like, work on it. And, obviously, I could use a lot more practice on shadows and how light works and stuff, and I'm no expert in that. Honestly, a lot of how I learned how to do lighting came from a art class I took my senior year of college this past semester, and watching Drawfee videos, like, you know, just watching them, like, do their little highlights and stuff and the shadows that they do, even just in the opening of their little mug guy that they made. That really, like, it does a lot to, like, you know, teach you just, like, the little things of, it's like, well, yeah, that does make sense. And, you know, as, like, from an art standpoint, it doesn't always have to make sense. Sometimes you can make your art, like, bend the rules a little bit. It's like, you know, this area is completely taken in shadow, but for the sake of this argument, to highlight this, like, you know, border a little better, maybe there's just a thin line of light hitting this, like, you know, shoulder or whatever. So obviously, you know, you can do whatever you want with art, but I do try to go for a little more. It's very weird, my art style. It's like a very realistic cartoon, if that makes any sense. Like, it looks really cartoony. Like, it looks like it would, like, it's like straight out of, like, a children's cartoon in terms of the colors, like, in the, you know, it's just very cartoonish and whatnot. But I also try to do, like, a very realistic feel where it's like, yes, it looks like a cartoon character, but it has fairly realistic proportions. Now, you can see that I'm struggling with these light hitting the eyes and, like, you know, deciding what I want to do with the nose shine. Because, again, I've kind of gotten down what I want to do with shadows, but it's always, like, the light. Like, was like, you know, where does light hit? And it's like, how much should I, like, you know, make it, like, it's just, it's very, it's like a lot of art stuff. It's like, you know, it's not down to an exact science, especially not for me. It's just kind of like, it's more than random. It's just kind of like well, how much is too much? How much is, like, too little? And it's very much trial and error. It's like, you know, let's see if that looks good. Let's see if this looks good. And it's like, at the end of the day, you know, you're always gonna, like, at least for me, I always wish that I could, like, you know, do more. Because it's like, I have, like, this image in my head of, like, you know, what I was going for. And it's just very hard to, like, get that. But we do the best with what we have. And, while it doesn't look, you know, like, you know, something you'd hang in a museum, I think it looks pretty good. I'd love to hear what you guys think, and I will see you guys later.